Hey everyone, I just want to make a little short video here. I am going to be covering, doing a commentary on Rough and Rowdy Ways, and I want to go way back to Bob Dylan's very first album. Now, it was back in February of 2021 when I did a review, if you will. Of course I was, of course I looked very a little unprofessional, a little bit. I was kind of still, I was just like in the beginning there of doing, of course, my Bob Dylan review journey, basically, and I really felt like I felt like I was kind of getting my proper, review taste of, doing a Bob Dylan review, and yeah, I know that's been almost 5 years, right? I mean, I guess this February coming up, it'll be almost 5 years, 2021. Yeah, okay. I can't believe that, right? That's when I was quite young, but now I'm a little bit more wiser. And I just want to talk a little bit about the first album, a little bit, And I might probably do very short little things on just at least the first couple of albums from Dylan, I think I may go up to just 64 and just kind of talk about, kind of revisit and kind of, now that I've been more, associated, a little bit more familiar, and now I feel a little bit more, on the level of being a little bit more knowledgeable about the Dylan albums, I just kind of want to talk briefly about, the first album, And of course, this came from the mono box set. You can't go wrong with these the replica sleeves, a CD, from Columbia. And I believe this is what the label actually looked like in '62, believe it or not. I know, like Johnny Mathis and stuff, Yeah, so this came out in March of '62, and now obviously they almost really dropped him, almost really at the cusp there of dropping him, because they just didn't have any. They just didn't seem he would make it that far, But they really. I felt like they were really testing his was really testing him to see if he would be able to, make it further, basically, and after that, he, started going out and, he performed at, doing at the small clubs, basically, in New York, and performed at the Cafe Wha, met with Peter, Paul, and Mary, and, he met a lot of the, folkies, basically, and that whole, which I forgot the name, Tin Pan Alley. Yeah, so, he kind of made it through the Tin Pan Alley, and, yeah, and he, of course, nobody didn't know if he was going to be such a big, important figure, or just be one of those, those guys or whatever, and, of course, he was very influenced by, by the front cover, of course, Woody Guthrie and, Pete Seeger, and he was really good friends with Fred Neil, who wrote, that song, Everybody's Talking. So he was really starting to, kind of rub shoulders with the, the kind of the big folkies, And I think, in my opinion, I really do think that I really think that maybe, back then, I understand that, because of the, the the way they were trying to really promote him and stuff wasn't really. They just, I guess the record company didn't seem to really be confident enough to really really push him more into a bigger, artist or whatever. And obviously it didn't chart, I believe, in the United States, although it charted in the United Kingdom, I believe. But yeah, and of course most of these songs are all covers, obviously, except for Baby Let Me Follow You Down and Song to Woody, which is the last song on the album. And he did the opening track is You're No Good. I mean, just with like that song, and of course Talking New York, which he was he enjoyed, and he seemed to really, really, really get into the whole talking blues, numbers and stuff, And of course he gets into Man of Constant Sorrow. I mean, for a guy that was so young, I mean, he was like maybe 21 or 22 when he recorded the album and was signed with Columbia, Yeah, I mean, he just had the voice like of an older adult or of an older person, basically, almost sounding kind of a little bit like Woody Guthrie, or Pete Seeger, and of course, he was the first one to do House of the Rising Sun before the Animals, obviously, and Freight Train Blues, when he just holds in that note, it just sounds like an old engine or whatever, But yeah, I mean, I think what an important document. This was like the first ever album. Even though people were kind of didn't seem. I mean, not a lot of people didn't really like the album. They kind of thought too, an artist like somebody like him, somebody like a folky, very young person to be on Columbia, the very eye, the with all the different kind of people that were signed on Columbia. You had Percy Faith and Johnny Mathis, and then you had of course Pete Seeger was on Columbia Records, but then they saw Bob Dylan, like, I don't know, let's kind of pass on him. He doesn't seem to. I don't think he's not going to really be big, But whoever thought, and of course after that he kind of basically became a very important musician in the '60s, But yeah, that's all I kind of want to say here briefly, to kind of do a little brief thing on going back to the very first album, because I really think that it is quite important, even though I think for some folks maybe it's the Freewheelin' that may be the first, album they listen to from him or whatever, because they maybe heard the debut and they kind of thought, it's not really the Dylan we want to hear. We want to hear more of the, like the hard rain's gonna fall and all that, and and even Blowing in the Wind or The Girl from North Country. They rather hear more of that more than some of that early stuff. But I love it. It's great, and Bob Dylan's great, and I think the debut is really, really. If anything, if you want to start, starting point with Dylan is definitely the debut, definitely for sure, And I think that's enough of me of talking for now. I'm wasting almost 10 minutes here. I'm talking to you, but I know some of you are watching this. I know some of you are probably enjoying this, and I appreciate that. So thank you folks for watching. So take care. Bye bye.